This is a Pikachu to you and me, but only because my funny accent is from a country that uses the English names for everything. But if I were born about 500 kilometers east, I would be calling Squirtle Shiggy, cause that's its name in German. France calls it Carapuce, Japan Zenigame, and Korea Kokobuki. That's with a double K, by the way. I don't know, I prefer Squirtle personally, but that doesn't necessarily apply to other Pokemon as well. Some Mon just have phenomenal localized names that I low-key kinda prefer above their English counterparts. And others have such ridiculous names I wanna talk about them too. But let's start with the selection of phenomenal Pokemon names from languages other than English. For example, Squirtle may be best in English, but the French name for Blastoise is an absolute banger. Tortank, a combination between tank and tortue, French for turtle, but this could obviously work just as well in English. I've always found Braviary to be a bit of an awkward name, personally, and what makes it even more painful is that the English localizers could have easily just kept the Japanese name and be better off for it. Wargle, as in warrior and eagle. But hey, maybe this one hit a bit too close to home for the American localizers. While I don't think Illumise is a bad name at all, it's quite fun to say, the Korean name Neobeat does something I really like, which is tie the names of Volbeat and Illumise together. It's weirdly enough the only language that does this, all others use a variation of Illumise. Its fellow bug type Kartana's name isn't terrible, but the French and German names Katagami are definitely an improvement. Same thing with Sinistea. The English name is clever and fun, but the German localizers beat their English colleagues at their own game. Over there, this is called Vitality, which is a pun and a half. Crazy to think that the German name is actually a better English pun than the official English name. German has several more names that have impressed English audiences so much you might have even heard about them. For example, the fact Snorlax's German name is Relaxo is actually pretty well known, I feel like. And around the days Pokemon X and Y were new, the brilliant FM for Noibat made the rounds in online communities as well. Speaking of doing the rounds in the online communities, Snom didn't exactly need much help to achieve fan favorite status when Sword and Shield released, but had its name from German been used worldwide, it might have been even worse. They turned Snom into Snomnom, which is just really fun to say. I cannot be the only one who frequently gets the names of the Vanillite line confused. And so I would have preferred it if we had used the French name globally for the smallest ice cone, being Sorbebe, a mix between sorbet and bebe, French for baby, and is also used in Flabebe a generation later. Had Vanillite been a Kalos Pokemon, this would have been its name, no questions asked. While I wouldn't necessarily trade for it, the Japanese name for Fido, which is a great pun, is too adorable to not at least consider. Puppy Mochi would have been perfect for Scarlet and Violet's DLC. Another name from Paldea I wouldn't have mind seeing altered is Garganacl. I do really like the inclusion of the Knackle, which is the chemical formula for salt, but after two evolutions that already used it, I wouldn't have minded a switch to the German name Saltigand. When we look at Area Zero, I personally am not really a fan of how the English names for the Paradox Pokemon are all two words, and I don't think I'm alone in that. And what makes it especially painful is that all European languages just completely ignore that fact and make standard Pokemon names for them all. I mean, I would have preferred Brahma Luna, effectively Spanish for Roaring Moon, over the real name Everyday. Another name I've always felt is a little awkward is Chestnut. And weirdly enough, English is the only language that doesn't use a French-inspired name for this Pokemon, despite doing so for Greninja and Delphox, meaning that they could have easily just kept a way better Japanese name, Brigaron, or Brigaron, I guess that is how it would have been pronounced in English. Speaking of Greninja, well, its name would already work perfectly well in French, since it's a combination of ninja and grenouille, which is French for frog. They go with an entirely different name, and while it's hard to beat the awesome name that is Greninja, it does a valiant effort. Amphinobi is a combination between amphibian and shinobi, and just rolls off the tongue really nice. Another name that is hard to beat that I really like is Palafin, although I personally don't associate the word paladin with superheroes per se. And it seems the French localization team agreed because they called it Super Dauphin, which just literally means super venison, which is maybe a bit too far to the other side, but I appreciate that they tried. While Lombre's name is used quite universally among European languages, German makes a change that is just the cherry on top. A small change, but it really makes it so much better. Lombrero. I also really like what they did with Toxtricity, which is another name I've always struggled with a little. Riffex is the German name, a combination of the suffix ex, which is commonly used for lizards, and of course riff, as in a crazy guitar riff. While I wouldn't say there is anything wrong with the name Oranguru, I do want to give the Germans props for improving upon it, in a way that would have worked in English as well. Commandatan is just great. Maybe a tad long, but great regardless. Doublé may hail from a French-inspired region, but its name is fully based on English words. If the localizers had watched what they were doing in French though, we would have had a way better name. Dimocles, which takes D, Latin for two, and combines it with Damocles, as in the sword of Damocles from the famous Greek legend. Now, obviously most foreign languages use Pokemon names that wouldn't really work in English, due to being words from their own language, but that doesn't mean there aren't some masterful wordsmiths working for these localization teams. For example, the French name for Cinderace is Pyrobu. At first sight, this feels lazy. Pyro is just pyro, and bu is the French word for goal. But when said out loud, Pyrobu resembles Tirobu, which is a penalty kick, as seen in football. Another French fire type with a great hidden name is Ninetales. Feuillard initially just looks like feu, fire, plus renard, which means fox. But it also contains the word neuf, which means 9, in reverse. Very cleverly done. Too bad Alolan Ninetales kinda ruins the name now. Farfetch'd, its entire existence, is basically just a result of its name being a brilliant Japanese pun. Its name is Kamonegi, which when separated is used as a phrase that means golden opportunity or easy target. But on their own, the words also mean duck and spring onion, creating the design of Farfetch'd right then and there. The original Japanese name of Go-Goat is also a great one, although I do understand why English didn't copy it. Chevroom combines chèvre, which is French for goat, with froom, which just perfectly summarizes Go-Goat's design. The French name for Swoobat is also a great pun, but wouldn't really fly in English. It's called Rhino Love, which is a play on the Rhinoceros, the scientific name for a horseshoe bat. But since rhino has a different meaning in English, Rhino Love sounds like someone has too close a relationship with their rhyhorn. The French names for the legendary birds are also worth mentioning, as they're absolutely amazing. Arthacodin, Elecfor, and Solverock. Now, Arthacodin may sound like something you take against a headache, but these names actually tie into the names of gods. Odin, Thor, and Ra for each. In hindsight, these names are honestly probably a bit too cool for these Pokemon, but at the time in Gen 1, yeah, these are names befitting of one of the few legendary Pokemon. Although, Japan did this trio incredibly dirty. Freezer, Thunder, and Fire are literally the three names for the birds. Now, it is well known that English words are just naturally perceived as cool in Japan, so the idea of calling a Pokemon Fire is not as dumb as it sounds, but it's still not exactly a good look. And to make matters even worse, the entire first generation is filled with Pokemon who have a Japanese name that is literally just a dumb single word. Sometimes English, but sometimes Japanese too. Weedle is Beetle, even though it isn't remotely a beetle, then evolves into Cocoon and eventually becomes Spear. Sandshrews' name is just straight up Sand. No more, no less. Jigglypuff's Japanese name is famously Purin, which is just literally the Japanese word for pudding. Same with Kabuto, whose name is straight up Japanese for helmet. Ghastly is known as Ghost, with Haunter then adding the T to become Ghost. Krabby's Japanese name is just straight up the English word crab. Chansey is Lucky, Cypher is Strike, and the evolutions are known as Showers, Thunders, and Booster. What Booster has to do with a fire Pokemon, I don't know, but it is what it is. But yeah, if you haven't realized, we have reached the part of the video where I show that not every non-English name is good. Let's stick with some more evolutions like Umbreon, whose Japanese name is literally Blackie. Yeah, that doesn't sound too good. In Chinese, all evolution names are just their types and then the word Eevee. So Flareon is Wu Yibu, meaning Fire Eevee, Glaceon is Bing Yibu, Ice Eevee, and Sylveon is Zhanshi Yibu, Fairy Eevee, etc. I mean, that's just incredibly lazy. While I can't say I dislike Lickitung's German name, I do prefer the English one over Schlurp. Yeah, it's just Schlurp. It's funny, but it's also, I don't know, a little gross or something. I have similar feelings about the French names for Grimer and Muck. They are Tatmorph and Grottatmorph, which is pronounced the exact same way as the French words for pile of snot and big pile of snot. Probably also for the best that the Japanese name for Magmar was changed, which is a Boober. This is derived from the booby, a bird species Magmar looks like, but due to what it has on its head, I don't think that is where the association goes. In the same camp, we also have the Korean name for Bronzor, which is Dong Mirror, just straight up the English word mirror in there, as well as the German name for Cranidos, which is Cocknodon, and the Japanese name for Mandibus, Fulgina. There's also Watchdog's name, Cockmarda, which is definitely not ideal for a Pokemon entirely focused on watching from the sidelines. I already mentioned the brilliant French name for Cinderace earlier, but during this segment I have to mention its German name as well. It's Liberlo, meaning you can have a Liberlo with the ability Libero, as the ability retains its name in German, which I don't think was kept in consideration when the name was created. And we end on another humorous name mix-up. The Japanese name for Rowlet is Mokuro, which combines the words for wood and owl. It is also exactly how a Japanese person would pronounce the English name Murkrow. The more you know. What are your favorite non-English Pokemon names? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing, and if you really want to support me, you can now become a channel member to get all kinds of fun perks and help me keep bringing these videos to your doorstep every week. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.